So next session gonna be our Dr. Lyu Aiping. He gonna share the topic is roles of Chinese medicine in future medicine. Dr. Lyu is Dean and Chair Professor. Dr. Kennedy Y.H. Wong, Endowed Professor in Chinese Medicine, School of Chinese Medicine, Hong Kong Baptist University. Being a renowned expert and academic in the field, Professor Lyu has been appointed as a head and spokesperson of the Chair China Delegation, International Organization for Standardization Technical Committee on TCM since 2009. So, Dr. Lyu, please.
Thank you. I tried my best actually to spend like 10 minutes to introduce how the Chinese medicine works. But I don't go to detail about I like to share my screen anyway. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I don't want to go to detail about how the Chinese medicine work in the traditional theory. So I just share, how the Chinese medicine will be in the future, or how they can be integrated with the Western medicine. Actually, my journey is that, my background actually graduated from the School of Chinese Medicine. And then I know the traditional Chinese medicine very well, and I got the license in Chinese medicine. And also actually I get, have been trained in immunology and pathology. So I know how the disease diagnosed. So basically I did, more like integrative medicine and try to evaluate how the Chinese medicine or how the Chinese herbal formula or product in the clinical effectiveness. So, and then we based on that, outcome of the clinical trial, and then we try to improve the efficacy either by combination therapy or by the new drug discovery. Of course, during that, whole process, I tried my best to integrate whole data set, a big data science, including, for the last 1,000 or 2,000 years, the textbook in the Chinese medicine, and also in the Chinese publications, clinical trials, and of course, we need to integrate to the PubMed, like in the Western medicine or chemistry database. So just show you that, let's say they have two clinics. One is a Chinese medicine clinic, and another one is Western medicine clinic. So they are both existing actually in the whole world. So when the patient comes to see a doctor, if you come to see a Western medicine doctor, so the doctor will ask the patient some question, but it's not so important actually. They need to get some samples, your blood or whatever, to some physical, chemistry, chemical, or biological test. And then the outcome will become the important, I would say, the most important evidence for the doctor to make a final diagnosis. Once the diagnosis is set up, so the doctor actually will give the intervention or treatment or drug. So what are the base on clinical practice guideline? So basically in whole, medical science, the clinical practice guideline based on the diagnosis. So that the most important role for the Western medicine doctor actually for diagnosis, right? In the Chinese medicine, clinic, so once the patient comes to see a Chinese medicine practitioner, so the only thing, important thing, is that the doctor will ask many questions. How's the feeling? How the patient is feeling? How the pulse and the pulse feeling and the tongue appearance? Those, I would say, the phenome actually is more important is from the patient directly. So the doctor, actually Chinese medicine practitioners, actually will classify the patient totally based on those patient symptoms. They have nothing to do with chemical, physical, biological test. Anyway, so this is a different type of clinic. I would say that both should be effective. Otherwise, will be closed down, right? So definitely, both of them are effective. The question is that can we integrate them together and improve the efficacy and let the patient benefit more? And difference actually between the Chinese medicine and the Western medicine, I can show some examples. Most important thing that the symptoms. Okay, remember that symptoms. Okay, the patient feelings in the Chinese medicine, there are about 3,000 symptoms, different symptoms. But in Western medicine, actually about 200. Even I would say the less than 200 symptoms, because the Chinese medicine focus mainly on the patient feelings. Even a pain or sweating, these simple symptoms, Chinese medicine practitioners can describe in different way. Let's say, sweating in the afternoon, sweating in the morning, sweating during night, even sweating in your head, sweating in your palm, whatever. So the location, the timing, different will be make a different significance actually in the Chinese medicine. And in Western medicine, actually, they don't care about the symptoms. They care the physical and chemical biological tests. So that's different. So we try to combine them. So in logical way, in both the real practice, clinical practice, let's say for the disease in the upper part, actually the Western medicine type, let's say the 10 patient with one well-defined diagnosis already, and then you have a treatment A, okay? And let's say 40% effective rate, and then 4 out of 10, recovered. And the 6 of them will get a second, intervention, right? And then maybe 50%, and then 3 others. And the last 3, I would say, so not lucky for them, but you change another intervention, right? So once the disease, will get the diagnosed, and then the doctor will choose different interventions depending on the efficacy. So we call that first line drug, second line drug, or third, whatever. So that's nowadays, real practice in the Western medicine. And in Chinese medicine, okay, even the 10 patients with one single disease, that's in Western medicine, because the feeling is different. The patient feeling can be different. So they can be use those symptoms, classify into the 3 subgroups. And based on these subgroups 3, and use a different intervention, definitely we will get more effective. So that's more like a precision medicine based on the further classification. I show you the real example in my experience. I'm focused on the rheumatoid arthritis, let's say. So arthritis, actually, the diagnostic criteria is so, common. Everyone know that, to be a rheumatologist. But actually, one thing is important, that some of patients after the joint pain, they like warming up. That means they feel the joint pain with cold feeling. So they like warm up. And some patients actually feel, hot. They like to be, cooled down. So I ask many rheumatologists in Western medicine, actually, they can ask the patient and get same, answers. So some patients feel, cold. Some patients feel hot, even they feel same pain. So, and if I go through the clinical trial, and we found that one type of Chinese have a formula that good for those patients feel hot. And the current Western medicine therapy is good for those patients with the joint pain, with cold feeling. So that at least 2 types of arthritis that are different, and be good for use different, intervention. And another question is that, can we try use cutting edge or technology or new clinical trial, find the well-defined symptoms for us a specific, intervention. Let's say herbal formula. So there are several herbal formulas already, or herbal product there. Can we, classify those herbal formula or one type of herbal formula, which is most important indication for that herbal product? Same thing actually for the Western drug. Our results show that actually even one herbal formula or herbal product, if they show the three type of feeling, I call it positive indicators. So they have clear urine, spontaneous sweating, night sweating. If those patients with this symptom, okay, and no negative indicators, that's yellow tongue coating, that's tongue appearance, and the pending sensation in the joint. So that means if the patient with these three positive indicator and no the two negative indicator, so the effective rate is totally different. So you can see that the lower part, the table, in the indicated group, ACR will become 87%. It's almost 90%. It's real high. And in the non-indicated group, it's 43 something. So the symptom, or I would say the patient feeling actually real good. To classify the patient, use different interventions. So at least we can improve that intervention. So another idea is that we know that Western medicine, the drug, actually is good for those, with cold feelings. And another, in the following question that, can we find something to help the Western drug to treat more, arthritis patient or improve the efficacy? And what we did, we know that those arthritis patients with hot feeling have something, special. I don't want to go to detail about the molecular biology or something like that. Anyway, and then we found one of them actually most effect. I would say the most, strong synergy between the Western drug and with this, compound. Actually, this compound, fortunately, is from Chinese herb, and this Chinese herb actually is become a drug in China market already. And this drug actually is used for coronary heart disease. So, okay, this compound drug is Chinese medicine, and it's approved for the treatment of coronary heart disease. And we found this drug is synergized with the Western chemical drug for one type of arthritis patient. And then we found something commonalities. Actually, that means similarities between coronary heart disease and arthritis. So in that sense, actually, so the further classification can be from one disease and also can be from two different types of disease. Even you can find something similarity between complete different disease, the two disease, and then they can be connected by some of compound or some of drug. So that's the real integration. And I would say another important thing that herbal formula actually is kind of, several herbs become mixture. And from the chemistry view, we don't know which compound are most important. Maybe some of compounds are not so useful. Even some compound may be not so good, maybe negative effect. So anyway, we try to optimize those herbal formula compound to become, let's say 2 or 3 compound, become a combinational drug discovery. So this work actually have been done in my group already. So we have, let's say, 7 or 10 herb become herbal formula, and then we use different, bioinformatics or chemoinformatics technology, and we found at least 7 pairs of 2 compounds from the Chinese herbs. These 2 compounds actually, I would say that the most important, can produce very strong synergy for the arthritis treatment. So this, another way, try to optimize the herbal formula become, I would say, compound-based or compound combination-based new drug. So in all, I would say the Chinese medicine with wisdom for the future medicine, there are two important factors. The first one actually is to facilitate the further classification of health condition. The health condition can be one disease, can be someone with several diseases together, like diabetes, like chronic heart disease, hypertension. They all usually they combine together. So the Chinese medicine can be used the symptom feeling or patient feeling to reclassify those patients, and this will lead to further classification or stratification of the patient, and definitely it's more like toward to the precision medicine because it further classifies the patient. And the second important factor, I would say that to help new finding drug discovery based on the Chinese medicine, both for the classification. That means once you can find a subgroup of special patients that not respond to the conventional intervention, and then you can find some molecular biomarkers or molecular network, and then you can try use a screening or technology, whatever, and you can find some special compound from Chinese herb medicine, or you can optimize those have been used for 1,000 years Chinese herbal formula. There are at least more than 10,000 classical Chinese medicine herbal formulas used for 1,000 years already. So that's big resource for the new drug discovery. The important is that you try to develop a single compound drug or try to develop two compound combination drug. I think that several ways if we try to combine Chinese medicine and pharmaceutical together. Looking ahead, I would say that the big data and AI definitely will be most important for the medical science. So many data, including imaging even, and the patient symptoms, and also the chemistry, compound, gene, protein, so many things. And even the single thing can be interaction, so it will be real big data science. And another I would say that network medicine is that means that we are not going to look at a single disease or single gene or single protein. Actually, in I would say right side, I say the blue dot, let's say that's a normal network. For example, each dot represent either genes or protein. Anyway, those gene and protein, they become kind of dynamic parents, right? So that's a normal situation. So there can be variance, dynamic parents. So this normal healthy states. And in my left side, actually in the up part, you can see it here. Once one gene or one protein change something, the network will become disturbed somehow. It's not only affect the single gene or single protein, there will be several. So our current intervention is try to find only single one gene, one protein, and then you touch on this and try to back to the normal, to the health state. But actually, it's real, in most cases, real difficult to find the important one or the key one. So, and then intervention, I would say that we need, use network intervention means that you need some act on those affected genes or proteins, not a single one, and become network, intervention. That's why I say the combination drug discovery is more important because the use of two compound together, even three compound together. I know that for the dynamic analysis, more compound combination will become more complicated in the chemistry analysis. So I think that in the future, I think the technical part will be solved somehow. So the network medicine or network, that means the network classification and also network intervention will become real in the future. So what I hope, what in my mind and in the future for the medicine is that it's not real Western medicine okay, come to see a Western doctor and then ask some question and get some physical, chemical, biological tests and get diagnosed and use clinical practice guideline and prescribe, whatever intervention drug. And of course, it's not real Chinese, but just ask, how is the feeling is not enough. And in the future, become integrate diagnosis. That means both disease diagnosed and Chinese medicine classification or pattern classification and will be integrated somehow. And more important, I would say that big data and AI prediction or network medicine will be integrated somehow and become a real, I would say, the future, medical science. So last, I would say many thanks to those, funding bodies or government to support my research. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Li, for the brilliant and informative speech. So I think just like what Dr. Li said, no matter is Western like medical or Chinese traditional medical, our purpose is like to heal, to bring comfort, healing, and a cure to the patient, so that all the people can suffer less and can eventually be healthy.